Hi, it's me, Rohit again, after 2 months. In the previous episode, we learned about gathering resources and fixing your environment. But this episode is going to be specifically tailored to build a mental structure that you need to have while you're trying to learn something. We'll use our own physical structure throughout the video for referring back to the learnings that we'll have. Now, the first building block that you need to have within your mind is focus. And the reference would be head. You have to keep your head in the game and eyes on the prize. Whenever I think about focus, it's always about saying no to everything else. That includes your dopamine loops, intrusive thoughts, and daydreaming. A person who is deeply immersed within the thing that he's trying to learn is more likely to learn that thing faster than everybody else around who is trying to get some podcasts, get some music while trying to focus on that thing. Whenever I think about focus, I always get back to this book, Deep Work, written by Cal Newport. He also makes videos around cognition, deep work. You can check him out. I'll make a separate video on why deep work has been the single biggest thing in my life. And among 70 other books that I've read, this thing can't be replaced. Then next comes self-discipline. The reference would be spine. And my posture has been bad for the previous 3 years, and I won't brag about that. Whenever we think about self-discipline, we think that it's something to do in the gym, but it's not. Self-discipline can be understood by economical hierarchy. In the economical hierarchy, we can understand the value that each income level provides. Somebody who just earns a little just to live can't understand why would a person go to Starbucks to buy a coffee. And in the same way, the Starbucks guy doesn't understand why would a person buy a painting with hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the same way, we don't understand why would a person persist for 2 hours, 4 hours of focus in the long run, while we can just do that stuff while listening to music and podcasts at the same time. What your mind is trying to do in the meantime is basically trying to escape those discomfort that comes in when you're trying to learn something and when you're trying to focus. We live in an age of massive abundance. Everything has been weaponized around us. We should be deeply immersed within something. You have to remember that one Einstein is worth a legion of PhD drones. You are always in a competitive edge. By focusing on something, by building a self-discipline, you put yourself ahead in the competitive edge. That's what self-discipline does to you. Then we move down to action. The co-founder of OpenAI, Sam Altman, said founders should have an action bias. By action bias, he means going out there to test it yourself. Even if you don't know how to do it, you will know it in the future. That's what is called action bias. There's a famous saying called nullius in verba, which means take no one's word for it. Unlike somebody who just bought a PC instead of fearing whether this will mess with my project or not. By trying out, you'll be knowing whether this is right or wrong. Many people delve into wasting more time thinking about whether they should pursue that action rather than actually wasting time in that action. This is what happens for most people. Then we move down to persistence. I can't emphasize on this point enough. It's just as important as action. Consistency is always better than intensity. A gym guy who is joining the gym for the first day might crank up some loads, might just not return next day. Why? Because his muscles are sore. You should be persistent enough to stick with the thing that you were trying to learn. And the reference would be heart and transcendence. It's what keeps you going, that I have to be persistent enough to break through this project. And if I want to explain the cycle of any project in the world, I would say first you feel like this is the best idea ever. Second, you feel like, okay, this is harder than I thought. Then you think like this is going to take some work. Then you go on thinking, man, this sucks and this is boring. Then you move down to dark night of the soul. It's flight or fight mode. Then we move down to it'll be good enough if I finish because I'll learn something for the next time. Then we move down to it's done, but it sucks. It's not as good as I thought it to be, but it's not that bad. This is the life of project taken from Maureen McCart. We have ended our part 1. Now we'll move down to some hacks and then we'll move down to some rapid fire questions. Let's talk about hack 1, which is having a checklist. When you have a checklist and when you document it down that I have pursued this habit for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're more likely to follow up on Thursday and Friday because your mind already thinks that hey, this person has been consistent with his efforts, he might return tomorrow. So you feel like this has become a habit. When I was trying to incorporate self-improvement in my life, I used to practice a habit within a week, once a week, then the whole week, then the whole month, then the whole year. The self-improvement has now become my life. If you've seen my previous video, I talked about passive learning. Now, it's passive interaction here. What I mean by passive interaction is when we don't feel motivated enough to get onto it and get the work done, you should always see somebody else doing it, and maybe even refer back to the learnings that you had to get onto that thing. And when you see those things, when you read those books that remind you of who you are, who you're trying to be, then you'll slow down throughout the journey. Now we move down to common problems that you will encounter when you're trying to learn something. The first one is, it's harder than I expected to be. It's never meant to be easy. I remember waking up at 10 p.m. and working till like 2 a.m. And it was a silly thing to do back then, but we made promises to ourselves that we'll be putting in this amount of hours. I will just hover around this thing randomly. I think it's about the technicality of the goal. How much do you specify? I want to learn specifically this. Somebody scheduling a 4-hour-long gap of HTML learning won't be actually getting most of the things down there. Instead, you should schedule, I will learn this glowing button for 20 minutes. If that gets done in like 10 minutes, it's your profit. You save time and you can get back to something else. That's how Pomodoro works in general. The third one is, it's not that important right now. It'll always refer back to the things that you wanted to learn and you learn who you want to be from. When you go back to these resources, that's what keeps you alive. That's what keeps you go through this journey. The next one is productive procrastination. New task, new plan. Yeah, we think that, hey, let's not do graphics design anymore. Let's move down to UX design. No, let's not do UX design. Let's do video editing. But I feel like you will get to a point where you can make a decision for yourself. But that day doesn't come before you have been persistent enough to see results and show results to people. Delusional goal. I want to be in the NBA. It's like saying I want to be earning $2 billion in 2 months. It's not possible. It's just delusional to a certain degree. Whom you know yourself to be and who you are. I have a picture behind in that wall, and it refers back to like there's a huge gap into who you want to be and who you are. You have to cross that gap by persistent effort. And the last one is, I'm learning. I mean, whatever you learn, no amount of learning can compound up the fact of which a man can learn his actions. We'll move down to the next video, which will come by some weeks later. And we're going to talk about specific resources and techniques that you need to incorporate when you're trying to learn something. This includes Feynman technique and Pomodoro technique and all those techniques combined. And I'll also add some bonus sessions into talking about techniques that are not widely recognized so that you can get the most out of your learning journey. See you in there.